Okay, so imagine this. You finally made it.
Yeah.
Airport, check-in done, security, the whole deal. You're sitting there, maybe thinking about work, maybe vacation, and then it happens.
Ah, the announcement.
Yeah, the dreaded announcement, not just, a tiny delay. We're talking hours.
Yeah.
And that excitement you had, it just evaporates, melts into this like slow simmering annoyance.
Ugh. Yes. That feeling, and all you want is your bed, right?
Totally. Does that sound familiar to you listening? I bet it does.
It's got to be one of the most universal travel frustrations, hasn't it? That horrible mix of being completely exhausted and completely, utterly stuck.
Absolutely. And, that exact scenario, that feeling is what kicks off the language lesson you shared with us for this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today, it's more than just vocabulary. Yeah. We're going to use this one conversation, the single dialogue, as a kind of lens.
Yeah.
We want to understand how people express feelings, how complaints work culturally maybe, and even zoom out a bit. Look at the bigger picture of where these travel headaches might actually happen in a place like Indonesia.
It's pretty cool how much you can unpack from something that seems quite simple on the surface.
Yeah, we think we could pull out some really neat insights, practical stuff too.
Definitely. The core material, it's this beginner level Indonesian lesson. It's got the dialogue, vocabulary lists, grammar notes specifically on feelings and complaints, and even a cultural bit.
So we're going to weave all that together for you, show how language and context are, intertwined, give you a richer picture.
Exactly, a more holistic view.
Okay, so let's dive straight into that source material. It starts with this chat between Lisa and Andy. Lisa spots Andy and says he looks sangat lela.
Which means really exhausted. You can just picture him.
Totally. And Andy immediately explains why. He says, gara-gara penerbangan pesawatnya ditunda.
Which translates pretty directly to, because of my flight delay. Simple as that.
And Lisa, naturally, asks, how long?
Ugh. And here comes the pain point. Andy says, hampir 3 jam. Menyebalkan karena ada masalah teknik pada pesawatnya.
Almost 3 hours.
Wow.
And the worst part, he says, the Menyebalkan part, the annoying bit.
There's a technical problem with the plane.
Yeah.
The classic reason.
Oof. You just feel from... And Lisa's reaction totally gets it. Parah sekali, tidak dapat dipercaya ada kejadian seperti ini.
That is terrible. I can't believe such a thing could happen. Pretty standard reaction, right?
Right. And he just confirms, yep, everyone felt that way. He says, semua penumpang mengatakan hal yang sama. All the passengers were saying the same thing.
You can almost feel that shared sigh of resignation on the plane, can't you?
Oh, yeah. You, our listener, you probably know that feeling, right? That bone-deep weariness being stuck.
It's so relatable, and just from that little back and forth, we already get some key Indonesian words.
Mm-hmm. Like what?
Well, penerbangan, that's flight. Then ditunda, which is crucial here, to be delayed or postponed.
Right.
Menyebalkan, that's our annoying. Pesawat terbang for airplane. And penumpang means passenger. Basic travel stuff.
Got it. Flight, delayed, annoying, airplane, passenger. But the misery doesn't end there for poor Andy, does it?
Huh. No, apparently not. The dialogue wraps up with Lisa reminding him.
Right. She says, omong-omong, Pak Joko ada di ruangan menunggu laporanmu.
Anyway. Or, by the way, Mr. Joko is in his room waiting for your report.
Ouch. So he's exhausted from the delay, and now he has to walk straight into a work thing, a report.
Yep, so we pick up 2 more words there. Laporan for report, and tunggu, which means to wait. Mr. Joko is waiting.
Man, that just adds another layer of stress, doesn't it? Knowing you have that hanging over you after hours of waiting already.
Absolutely. Which actually leads us really neatly into the next section of the source material, the grammar focus.
And it's all about
expressing feelings and complaints. Perfect timing. And Andy's line, Menyebalkan karena ada masalah teknik. The annoying part was the technical problem. That's kind of the jumping off point.
So how does the source break down complaining? Does it start gently? Because, complaining can be tricky culturally.
It does, yeah. It presents this sort of spectrum. It starts with the softer ways you might signal something's not quite right. Very polite stuff.
Like what kind of words?
Things like permissi, which is basically, excuse me, or maaf. Sorry.
Okay.
The example given is, permisi, suara radio Anda terlalu bising. Excuse me, your radio's too loud. See? Very indirect almost.
Right, not confrontational.
Exactly. It mentions tolong, please, terlalu bising, too noisy, and mengganggu, disruptive in this category too.
Yeah.
These are for minor everyday things, gentle nudges.
But sometimes a gentle nudge isn't enough, right? What happens when it's more serious? Like Andy's 3-hour delay or, bad service.
Right. So the source then moves on to stronger terms, words you'd use when you're genuinely frustrated or feel something's wrong.
Okay, now we're getting into real complaint territory.
Yeah, like menyebalkan, which means ridiculous.
Okay.
The example is quite good. Ini sungguh menggelikan, mengenakan biaya pelayanan $20 untuk pemesanan makanan saja. This is ridiculous, charging a $20 service fee just for ordering food. You can hear the indignation there.
Definitely.
What's mengecewakan that's disappointing, as in pelayanan hotel itu sangat mengecewakan. The hotel service was really disappointing. We waited ages for our reservation.
Okay.
And tidak masuk akal, which is great. It means unreasonable or doesn't make sense.
Well, I like that one.
Yeah. The example is about homework. Tidak masuk akal memberikan pekerjaan rumah sebanyak itu kepada anak umur 4 tahun. It's unreasonable to give that much homework to a 4-year-old.
Good point. And unfairness, is there a word for that?
Yeah, tidak adil. That means unfair. Used like, sungguh tidak adil memberikan kompensasi hanya kepada pelanggan besar saja. It's really unfair to only give compensation to the big customers.
Okay, hitting on injustice there.
Exactly. And finally, tying back to Andy, tidak menyenangkan, meaning unpleasant.
Why?
Lamanya penundaan pesawat itu sungguh merupakan pengalaman yang tidak menyenangkan. The long flight delay was indeed an unpleasant experience. It captures that general negative feeling. These are definitely more direct.
So you've got this range from a polite, to this is ridiculous or unfair. Understanding that seems pretty key to navigating things.
Absolutely.
What about the response? Does the source mention how people typically react when someone uses these complaint words?
It does give one common phrase you might hear, sort of the standard apology. Maaf atas ketidaknyamanan ini, kami akan menyelesaikan masalahnya.
Which means?
Apologies for the inconvenience. We will try to solve the problem. It's that classic customer service response, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds very familiar. So knowing these phrases, both for complaining and responding, it's not just language learning, it's like practical social navigation.
Exactly. Helps you understand what's being said to you and how to express yourself appropriately, whether you're traveling or just, dealing with daily life.
Okay, so moving beyond the complaints themselves, the source also zooms in on some specific word choices, right? Little nuances.
It does, yeah. It highlights the word sangat.
We heard that earlier with Handi being sangat lila. Really exhausted.
Exactly. Sangat means very, and it's an intensifier. Always comes before the adjective it's modifying. It just amps up the meaning.
So it adds emphasis.
Precisely. The source gives other examples like sangat baik, very good. Sangat segar, very fresh. And a sentence, peristiwa itu sangat mengejutkan. The incident is very surprising. Again, emphasizing the degree of surprise. It really punches up the feeling.
And what about Menyebalkan? That annoying word from the flight delay. It seemed pretty strong.
It is, yeah. It definitely packs more punch than just, say, bothersome. The source points out it's often used alongside words like tidak suka, dislike, or even benci, hate.
Wow, okay, so it's not mild irritation.
Not usually, no. The example given is, aku tidak suka caranya yang membuat orang menunggu, sungguh menyebalkan. I dislike the way he makes people wait, really annoying. You feel the strength of that menyebalkan.
Gotcha. Really annoying. Okay, this next one you mentioned from the source really caught my eye. The difference between menunggu and menanti. Both mean waiting.
Yeah, both mean waiting, but the source makes this really interesting distinction.
How so?
Well, menunggu, that's your everyday common or garden waiting. It's what you'd normally hear in conversation, like a Nindi waiting for his flight or Mr. Joko waiting for the report.
Okay, standard waiting.
Right, but menanti, that one's apparently reserved more for like poetic or formal writing. It has a slightly different feel, maybe more like awaiting in English, a bit more weight, maybe expectation.
Oh, interesting. So it's a stylistic choice.
Exactly. The example clarifies it. Anak kecil itu sedang menunggu ibunya datang ke sekolah. The kid is waiting for his mother to come to the school. Standard situation, standard word, menunggu. You probably wouldn't use menanti there in everyday speech.
That's fascinating. It shows how even simple words can have these layers of formality or feeling. It's not just about knowing the definition.
Precisely. It's about understanding the nuance, the texture of the language. These little details really enrich your understanding.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked language, feelings, complaints. Let's zoom out now. And these frustrating delay.
Yeah.
It happens somewhere, right? In this case, likely a very busy airport.
That's where the source takes us next, yeah. To the context of Indonesian air travel, specifically the main hub,
Which is?
Soekarno-Hatta International Airport.
Okay. And where is that?
It's located in a place called Cengkareng, which is in West Jakarta.
Got it. So Soekarno-Hatta, named after.
Good question. Named after Indonesia's very first president, Sukarno, and the first vice president, Muhammad Hatta. Important figures.
Right. Makes sense.
But interestingly, the source notes that native Indonesians often just call it Cengkareng Airport, after the area it's in.
Yeah.
Probably just easier.
Yeah, common practice everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when did it open? Is it old?
Opened back on August 13th, 1984. And it's definitely not small. Currently has 3 operational terminals.
3 terminals. Wow. And it connects Indonesia to the world, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. Major international reach. The source mentions flights to places like Abu Dhabi, Sydney, all over. And domestically, it covers a huge range from Ace way out west to Timika over in the east. It's a critical hub.
We're talking massive scale here. Any idea of passenger numbers, just to get a sense of the bustle?
The numbers are pretty mind-blowing, actually. Back in 2013, the source says it was handling around 4 million people per month.
Per month. Wow.
Yeah. And the year before, 2012, the total passenger count was 53.7 million for the year.
53 million. Okay, that really puts Andi's delay into perspective, doesn't it? That's an enormous operation.
It really does. When you have that volume of traffic, that complexity, you can see how technical issues or delays, while incredibly frustrating for the individual like Andi, are almost inevitable sometimes within such a massive system.
Yeah, it adds that layer of understanding the sheer scale involved. How do people get there? Is it easy to access?
It's accessible via the Jakarta Outer Ring Road Highway, and the source gives a specific distance from Monument National, which is in central Jakarta. It's about 26.8 kilometers.
Okay, and how long would that take, roughly?
Says about a 30-minute drive by car, presumably depending on Jakarta traffic.
Oh, good point. So, thinking about Andi's story and then learning about the airport, what's the connection we should make?
I think the connection is about seeing both the micro and the macro. You have Andi's very personal, very relatable frustration, but understanding the scale of Soekarno-Hatta, the millions of passengers, the complex operations, the vast infrastructure, it adds this whole other dimension.
Right. It shows the huge system behind that individual experience.
Exactly. His delay wasn't just a random event. It was a disruption within this incredibly busy, vital piece of national and international infrastructure.
So let's recap this deep dive. We started with something super relatable. Andi's awful flight delay. 3 hours.
Ooh. That universal groan moment.
Right. And using that language lesson as our guide, we dug into so much more than just, delay means ditunda.
We really did. We looked at the language of feelings and complaints, that whole spectrum from polite nudges to saying something is ridiculous or unfair.
And those specific word nuances, like how Sangit boosts the intensity, or the subtle difference between Menunggu and Menanti for waiting.
Yeah, the texture of the language, and then we zoomed right out.
To the airport itself, Soekarno-Hatta, learning about its history, its massive scale connecting Indonesia, it's huge.
Absolutely. So this whole journey, from a single frustrating moment to a major global hub, we hope it's given you, our listener, a kind of shortcut.
Yeah, a shortcut to being better informed, maybe seeing how language, feelings, and big systems like airports all kind of mesh together in everyday life.
It's all connected.
Definitely. So here's a final thought to leave you with. If we could unpack all of this cultural insights, language precision, airport logistics, from just one simple conversation about a flight delay, what other everyday interactions, things that seem totally mundane on the surface, might hold similar hidden depths? What else could we uncover if we just took a moment to really deep dive into them?
Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe.